iPad the iPad baby epidemic, a generation of brain rot.
It is said that if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. In this generation, if you give a baby an iPad, you entertain them for a day. But if you teach a baby to use the iPad, it will ruin their reward circuitry, ability to form relationships, and attention span for a lifetime. Generation Alpha will be the first generation.
Oh my god. I could not do this. No. I could not give my toddler an iPad. Can you imagine spending, what? How much are they? $800 or more on an iPad, and then giving it to your toddler, and then they're like sitting there with their cheesy filled fingers swiping it, then there's like cheese swipe marks all over the screen, and they're like dribbling drool and they get angry and they smash it, and then there goes your $800. Open mouth coughing. Oh no.
Generation who will never know what life was like before smartphones and social media. And I'm not talking Blackberries, flip phones, or envtuber.
Oh my god, I had... Oh, hold on, wait. Where is it?
Flip phones or...
That phone right there. Oh my god. I got this phone in like the hot pink color, and boy, did I ever think I was the shit. I thought I was the shit when I got that. I was so happy.
Or NV2s like I used to have when I was a kid. I'm talking about the endless stream of stimulation that the iPad and other modern day smart devices offer. What does this mean for the future of civilizations and humanity? And how are we already starting to see these effects spill into reality today? That's what I want to dig into in this video. And before you say humanity is doomed and all hope is lost, don't worry, it is. Not really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like these kids need to be outside playing and stuff. Not just sitting inside on their iPad or phone and whatever.
Though, just watch the video. I want you to imagine for a second that you're a kid again sitting at a restaurant with your parents. While they're discussing why your dad thought the dishes being washed off with water meant they're clean, and your mom furiously tells him that...
Oh my god. Oh my god. Not the man cleaning something with water. Why is that a thing? If you splash something with water, it is not all of a sudden clean.
That's not how it works. You start to get antsy in your seat. You won't stop moving around and letting your butt slide all the way off the bench until you're under the table, and your parents realize they need a good way to distract you. Before the age of digital handheld squares, you were usually given some sort of toy or coloring book. But now many parents are resorting to giving their kid one of those digital squares. On the surface, this might seem pretty harmless. After all, both forms of distractions are ways for the child to play, right? Well, the problem lies in the types of play that these activities encourage. A 2021 study conducted to highlight how young children's play is shaped through common iPad applications denotes two different types of play: epistemic play and ludic play. Epistemic play is the phase of playing where the child collects knowledge and tries things out. For example, think of a child being handed a box of wooden blocks. During the epistemic phase of play, they will observe the blocks and figure out what they should be using them.
Yeah, this is when you'll see them pick up the block and they'll kind of just be like holding it in front of their face, and they'll be like, ha, and then maybe they'll even kind of like put it in their mouth.
They might even try to start stacking those blocks in a way that doesn't allow them to fall over. Then, once they've gathered enough information and have figured out what to do with them more deeply, they will start ludic play. This is the more innovative part of play, where the child starts acting things out with the objects or symbols they are interacting with. Basically, it's just the unstructured imaginary part of play. So if we go back to the example with the blocks, maybe the child will start to imagine those blocks representing houses and bring in action figures to stand on those houses to symbolize the action figures arriving home after a long day of beating up civilians for not paying their parking tickets. This allows the child to exercise a lot more creativity during playtime, and it's been shown that ludic play is crucial for cognitive, emotional, and social development. In the study, they decided to place children of different age groups in a room with either an iPad or artifacts such as toys. And they found that the ones that used the iPad for play did not exhibit any sort of innovative play, which is part of ludic play, and were much more engaged with epistemic play, the play related to problem solving and exploration for a longer period of time than those who played with actual toys. Although they did state in the study that one should not, however, equate a tilt towards epistemic play to be inferior to imaginative forms of play, I can see some potentially damaging consequences of having basically an entire category of play that's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years being stripped from children for the first time. Innovation and creativity and having that ability to express that outlet when you're a child will no doubt affect your ability to innovate later down the line in life.
I mean, yeah, like how much can you learn from playing on an iPad? You're not going to learn realistically like how to stack things and whatever.
Possible that one's problem-solving skills may be at a higher rate due to how much the iPad incentivizes that type of play, but a disproportionate amount of problem solvers to innovators in society could lead to an even greater increase in conformity and consumption over creation. As the researchers put it, iPad applications typically have a defined set of goals featuring symbols to be manipulated in a determined fashion. This precludes aspects of play, especially innovative ludic play, where play's arbitrariness lets children create goals, play themes, and imagine symbols during play. However, I do think we need to remain a little skeptical with this study's results. Entrepreneurship, which is essentially the embodiment of innovation in business, continues to rise in the United States, even with iPads. Although I'd be interested to see if that rise starts to fall when those iPad babies grow up, or if the rate of success per like 100 businesses in entrepreneurship starts to go down because those iPad babies then grow up and they lack the innovative skills necessary in order to make an effective product.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have enough information on that right now because they're not old enough really to do proper research. So they're not going to know until later down the road where it's probably already going to be too late.
We'll see. We also might have seen some innovative ludic play types if the children were given some more creative type of apps to use. For example, I bet that if they played something like Minecraft Pocket Edition, which encourages creativity and imagination much more than the typical iPad app, the researchers might have recorded some innovative ludic play in there. And that's why I don't think it's necessarily the iPad that's inherently bad, but rather how the parents choose to, or not choose to because they just don't know how these devices work, let their kids use the things that are provided on the iPad. So let's talk about those ways in which having unrestricted access to all online media could do damage to children in the future.
Oh my
because
God.
I sure as hell know that watching One Man, One Jar as a kid did unimaginable things to my brain.
I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know what that is.
Did the internet do irreversible damage to your psyche at a young age too? Is it difficult to find anyone to talk about your problems with in real life, and even if you do, they just respond with based, real, and it is what it is? Well, maybe you need to give actual therapy a shot using today's sponsor, BetterHelp. If you haven't heard me talk about BetterHelp before, they are an online platform that connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to give you professional, unbiased advice. Starting therapy is probably the hardest part about therapy, and it's really hard to find the right person in the right place to do it, and then you gotta deal with driving there, and that's why BetterHelp is kind of solving this problem. With BetterHelp, you can have your therapy sessions as a phone call, as a video chat, or even as messaging if you prefer that. And they'll match you to one of their 30,000 therapists in their network, which will probably give you a much wider range of expertise than might be possible in your area. All you gotta do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll get matched with your therapist, in most cases within 48 hours.
Been
or less.
reignited
And what's way
for
more
everyone.
convenient about BetterHelp than trying to find a therapist near you is that if you are not vibing with your therapist, if it's not going well, you can change your therapist for free at any time. A lot of people are probably going to try to dog me for having BetterHelp as a sponsor in this video because I'm talking about people being online too much or on their phones too much. But it's different when it comes to therapy and online therapy, I think. Online communities, and especially online actual therapists, are a massive help, so much more helpful than if you were to do absolutely nothing about it. So if you think you might benefit from therapy, then you can click the first link in my description, which is betterhelp.com/Cole. That's betterhelp.com/Cole, and they're gonna give you 10% off your first month on the platform. So now,
Ooh, and he's like, new phone, who dis? I hope you're enjoying your new phone. Yeah, I always sit there and play with it for like an hour or something.
let's get back to the video. We are starting to see a shift in our culture in which the simulation of reality becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy on the imprint of reality itself. Unlike the imaginative reality of a child, which degrades over time as they start to see reality more objectively, the world in which we live in online has blurred the lines between imagination and reality, and in some ways has become more real than objective reality itself. Hyperreality, a term I've probably used in more videos.
Like, and then when you see kids like using these iPads and stuff, it doesn't even look like they're having fun. They just look dead inside. They just look completely dead inside. Oh, you just ordered the phone. Okay, I see, I see. Ooh, that's exciting. That is exciting. What phone did you get?
Than I should have by now, is the lack of distinction between symbols and simulations of reality and reality itself. For instance, a lot of us in the self-improvement space know that Instagram and the way people depict their lives on other social media is not an accurate representation of their actual lives.
Yeah.
And yet we start to form ideas and notions about reality based on that simulation of reality, and that in turn makes these ideas and notions become more of reality itself.
Yeah, because like if that's all you ever see, you're gonna be sitting there like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is what life should be. So like, I don't know, why is mine shit, basically?
About the way men and women talk about each other online right now, and I'm gonna make a whole video on this topic, don't worry, but let's just briefly go over it. You have social media algorithms designed to push what is most engaged with, which usually is the most over-the-top, unrealistic takes and views, pushing tons of content about how women are cheating and men are trash and women are trash. And so by virtue of being so immersed in this content, you start to only notice these things in reality. In fact, you even become the very ideas that are—
Yeah, literally, I was gonna say, if you're witnessing all this, this is the only thing you ever see on social media and stuff, you're also going to go out in the real world, and now you're gonna say this stuff in friggin' real life. Oh, men are trash and women are blah blah blah, and
spread in these videos themselves. If enough people start to convince themselves that all men and women are like this due to being biased towards their subjective negative experience and the polarizing content they consume, they will start to become untrustworthy of those whom they are attracted to and act exactly the way in which the shitty men in the highly engaged content act. So it's this feedback loop of immature men and women being the most promoted, which then leads people to focus more on that in real life, which then leads to them exacerbating that polarizing take in real life. And
this is now why we have a male loneliness and female loneliness epidemic. I got a Google Pixel, not the newest one, I believe. It was 8. But I'm excited. But will also take me a bit to get used to it. I've had Samsung for so many years. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I've had a Samsung for as long as I can remember, actually. I don't know if I'll ever be able to change or switch to anything else. I don't know if I could do it.
the term for this, which I've been hoping there was a name for until I came across it in a Sisyphus 55 video, is Hyperstition. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy in which, after enough consumption of a simulated hyperreality is taken in, inevitably leads to the future of our reality reflecting this more and more due to the influence of that consumption. Kind of confusing, but another example that might clear this up for you a little bit that I've been thinking about a lot recently is the rise of AI. Was AI just destined
Not
to become
AI.
as prominent as it is in our
Not AI.
modern world today? Or is it the result of our culture making enough TV shows and movies about it and simulating it and predicting that robots will replace humans in most jobs in 50 years? If you'd ask me, I'd say a little bit of both, but Hyperstition is exemplified in the latter question. Basically, the more time people spend online, the more they start to think the objective world is like the online world, and so they act in the way that the online world is portrayed long enough to the point where the objective world becomes the online world.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean for iPad babies? Well, imagine that starting around age 4 or 5, a good chunk of each day is spent in consumption instead of creation. And not just any consumption, but consumption of attention-dwindling, mindless stimulation that usually only highlights the most extremist versions of humanity. And I make that
I don't know if this would be a bad example, but basically, if you grow up in a community of people who tell you every day and stuff that the Earth is flat, then you're gonna believe it.
that distinction with consumption, because a counter argument of all this could be like, oh, well, we watched TV shows and movies as a kid, that was consumption before iPads, but I don't think that can be compared to social media and the online world that we now see today. This then starts to shape the child's perception of how the world works, because they don't yet have the ability to make the distinction between what's exaggerated and what's not on social media. In fact, I don't think most adults do either. And so, like the eventual hyperstition many adults are now going through, children are now viewing the objective world, that is, the world that is not simulated, as how it is portrayed the most online. Except for kids of Generation Alpha, like I said, they didn't even get the chance to form an objective view of reality outside of the online world. The consequences are apparent. Being more connected, but lonelier than ever since less people meet.
Oh my god. He should be outside playing! Not sitting on the couch on his phone!
Person. Trust is less common because much of the internet exposes the more nasty sides of humanity. Communicative face-to-face skills get replaced with virtual facial interaction. And something else that I've completely overlooked until now is how iPads lack the parent-child engagement that most traditional toys and games have. Put more simply,
Yeah, like, friggin' play games with your kids and stuff. Like, play with them with toys. If you wanted kids, spend time with them. Why are you just throwing an iPad in their face? I mean, like, on the one hand, I get it, obviously, because, like, freaking nowadays, you're just overworked and you're exhausted. And even though you wanted those kids, it's like, oh my god, you're just so exhausted from work, you can't even handle any more stress. So yeah, you throw the iPad in their face, but still. Still. I was reading this really interesting book, and then it got really weird talking about this kinda. But it was where when you die, you transfer your brain and personality to an AI or something. Oh, literally like Soma. Yeah, you get like your consciousness like transfers to a robot body and you continue living. Yeah, it is a really weird concept. Weird for sure.
simply, iPads just don't really allow children to play with their parents. And I'm sure there's exceptions to this, but I feel like that's what it is, an exception. Personally, I'm not around parents and kids that much at this stage in my life, so if anyone has like firsthand experience of parents just throwing their child an iPad as a way to distract them, and they do that all the time, let me know in the comments. Because I'm pretty sure that's going to cause future problems too. But then you could argue like, oh, well, those types of parents who are just going to throw iPads at their children were probably going to be shitty parents regardless. And you know, that's a solid point.
I
But
don't
imagine
I don't really agree with that because of what I said, that nowadays everyone's like so overworked and they have such little time for de-stressing and stuff that I think, you know, he's saying, oh, you know, they were just doomed to be shitty parents anyways. Well, no, they're probably just overworked and don't have time to de-stress. So that's what they do. Whereas if they were in a position where they could de-stress, then they probably wouldn't do that. So I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
If I left this video off right here without
Obviously, some yes, but not all.
proposing any solutions to the growing iPad baby epidemic, then I would be just another dude who complains about the way that the world is headed without actually doing anything to make a difference. This might be the cheesiest shit you've ever heard, but besides the very obvious solutions of limit kids' screen time and go touch grass, I think the only thing we can do is be optimistic. Humanity has only survived for as long as it has because some people were optimistic enough to see a future where they could eventually handle the issues they were presently dealing with. Plenty of people have made predictions about what the world would look like today, like thinking we would have already blown ourselves up by now and have to start over from scratch after an apocalyptic war.
True.
That haven't actually happened, or at least haven't actually happened as severely as we might have thought. Look, I'm sure you guys know this, but technology is one of the greatest resources for learning, for open-mindedness, for connection, and creating a positive difference in the world. Yes, the trade-off
Yeah. But it is all about how you use it. It's all about how it's used.
is that this little screen can cause the exact opposite, like the things that I listed in the beginning of this video. But if you can curate your technology and how you use it to produce the best possible version of yourself, maintaining optimism in the face of all these emerging problems will come much easier to you. I feel like it's a moral obligation for us as humans to stay optimistic, because like, what other option do we have? I'm not telling you to completely turn a blind eye to the never-ending atrocities of humanity, but I mean, shit, if Hyperstition can cause a self-fulfilling prophecy of negative things being brought into the world, then it can do the same thing for positive things. It just takes enough of us actually giving a shit and using the ability to reach tons of people that we now have to start getting more people to realize, hey, maybe life is suffering, maybe iPad babies have shortened attention spans and a negatively biased view towards the world, and maybe it feels like everything's going to shit, but that doesn't mean there's not ways to look at things better or do what we can to mitigate the effects of these things. What Hyperreality shows us is just how malleable the human brain actually is, and how much people's beliefs can be changed based on what you present to them the most. So why would we not at least try
Oh my god, listen to this music.
to shift this hyperreality to one that makes people actually want to engage with objective reality and create things and connect with people in real life so that eventually becomes more of our reality again. Yeah, it's completely idealistic and maybe it won't happen exactly like that, but clearly if you're watching this video, you give enough of a shit about your life to actually want to make something of yourself. So start by just being optimistic and using that optimism to raise awareness around postmodern issues and
Yeah. Something I've worked on very hard this year is, like, I don't know, trying to be more positive now, but also a huge thing I've been doing this year is just letting go of a lot of things that I don't like. People stress over things that really, why? There's so many things that I see people stressing over, and I'm just like, why? Just like literally just let it go and you would have you wouldn't be stressing so damn much. So, cuz like you go online and you're just friggin' bombarded with negativity because that's what gets people the most engagement and clicks. So so it's like hard to get out of it. No, I'm not letting it go. Well, Pixo, I don't know what to say. We'll have to make a puddle of misery. We need the song. Let it go, let it go. And then I don't know the rest of the lyrics. So that's the end of that. How is it that I have ADHD and have more attention span than most Gen Alpha? Because they click on something and it takes like 0.1 seconds to go to the thing, so then if it takes 2 seconds, they start screaming and crying. God, remember when you were like downloading music and you'd have to like sit there for a whole day waiting for all your music to download? Or like Sin's talking to me about how his friggin' games take all day to download, and I'm like, holy shit, I would literally just die. Yeah, that's why.
what we can do to combat them, because I'm certainly going to keep doing the same here on my channel. Thank you very much to all my patrons on Patreon. If you don't know what this is, it's a platform separate from YouTube, and you can talk to me one-on-one over the phone on there. If you want to check that out, link in the description. These postmodern issues are complicated, and I make these videos not only to bring awareness, but also to uncomplicate things. So if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like this short video essay that I've made about
What
another.
is happening?